Hey everybody, welcome to another edition of the Ralph Graves Show. So glad you guys decided to check out this podcast. And today I have on Seth Silvers, CEO of StoryOn.co. Good afternoon, good morning, Seth, wherever you are in the world. Good morning, good afternoon. How you doing, brother?
I'm doing well. It's mid-morning here in Colorado, and it's a good morning getting to be on your show. This is fun.
Well, man, thanks for being on, man. I really appreciate you taking the time to come on the Ralph Graves Jr. show, man, and just kind of share with us and share with these listeners on this podcast and the viewers on the YouTube and wherever they're listening, some of your success stories, some of who you are and some of the things you come through. First thing I want you to do is kind of tell the audience who you are, and then I'm gonna have some questions just for you. Kind of tell them who you are, Seth.
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks so much. And this is fun because I get to help Ralph with kind of the back end of this show a little bit. And so
Yes, you do.
To be on the front side, on the front end. So
yes, you do.
This is a privilege. So, like I said, I live in Colorado, and I started my company 5 years ago called StoryOn, and the whole focus was to really make marketing more authentic. Just feeling and kind of wishing for there to be this space, this world where I could connect with the brands and the companies that aligned with my values, and that I wouldn't necessarily have to feel like I'm being manipulated or kind of like really sold into buying something. Like
Sure.
that I could really connect on a values-driven way. And so I really started exploring, and the journey started much more than 5 years ago. But 5 years ago is the tipping point to where I had been studying and learning everything I could about storytelling and about marketing and trying to figure out, like, does it work for businesses to tell stories? Like, if businesses focus more on creating stories of how they're giving value, does that actually affect the bottom line? Or does it just sound good and feel good, but not actually move the needle? And as I started to really dive deep into that, I realized, man, this not only does this work, like the whole industry, the whole consumer industry and marketing industry is changing to where people want to buy from more authentic brands. And so I started StoryOn to really help to fill that gap. I figured I don't have all the answers, but I'd rather start today and start figuring it out than, wait and kind of try and build everything in my brain for 2 years before I start. And so the last 5 years has been quite a bit of ups and downs for sure.
Sure.
But the theme through it all has been helping people and helping brands to market with stories, helping them to understand the power of, yes, their brand story, but also their customer stories, the stories around their values, and really helping them create authentic content that feels like them, like they love it. And that then helps their business grow in a more authentic way. So I have a small team here, have a couple members on our team across the country. It's great because I think business is meant to be a force for good. So this is kind of a way that my company gets to help other businesses to like grow in their way and make more of an impact in their way. So it's fun. We kind of get to be an accelerator for awesome businesses.
Yeah. I'm just going to tell the global audience right now, Seth is my guy. All right. And that's why I had to do this podcast. Anything you see Ralph Graves Jr., Seth and his team is behind it. They're behind it. I mean, anything you see, podcasts, YouTube channels, my book, Seth and I we work closely together. He was the driving force behind Unstoppable, really pulling out of me what I really wanted to put in that book, and being a first-time author that way. And we're actually working on book number 2 now. He's phenomenal. You got to work with this guy. So I had to have him on my show. And so, and that's why I kind of said, Seth, come on, man, that the world needs to know, man, you've done so much for me that I know there's some other folks out there that are really trying to get started in telling their story and building their platform. And I wanted to introduce you to them. I wanted to bring you.
I appreciate the opportunity. It's been so fun to get to work with you, and I mean, you just got so much in you, and there's so many amazing stories. So it was fun to work on Unstoppable. It's exciting to be working on just continuing to build the platform that you feel called called to build.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's been a lot of fun.
Yeah, yeah. So man, listen. My book's called Unstoppable, and this podcast, this YouTube channel is really about helping people push through some obstacles and
Hmm.
helping people just really understand what it takes to be unstoppable. And so when I say that word unstoppable, what does it mean, or what does it look like to you? Or what does it mean to you for Seth and Story On to be unstoppable? What does unstoppable? What do you think of besides my book when you think of the word unstoppable?
Yeah, yeah. So I mean, the first words that like come to mind, I didn't have, I didn't know you were going to ask that question. So like, this is really like from the hip. Like first
Right.
thing that came to mind.
Sure.
One is like focused. Like I
Hmm.
think you really can't be unstoppable unless you're focused, and you have to know like where you want to be going. And I've seen that in the times where I feel like I'm stopped or I'm stuck. Um, there needs to be focus, and then there needs to be another thing, which is the second concept that came to my mind when you said that, which is like I don't have one fancy word for this, which I should because I'm a marketing guy.
Right.
But this kind of concept of like the next best thing, like what's like the one next step.
Hmm.
To be unstoppable, you can't be trying to do 1,000 things at once.
Right.
I had a lot to get done today, but I had to choose what's the first thing. I can't just, I've learned through failure of many wasted days that I can't just like wake up and say, I'm going to get a ton done today, open my computer and just start working at whatever comes to my mind. Like that's a good way to waste a day. And you get to
Right.
the end of a 12-hour day and you feel like you got nothing done,
Right.
as opposed to, waking up with intention, knowing where you're heading, knowing what you got to get done. And maybe you have a list, maybe you have all these things you need to get done, but at some point you have to say, what's the next thing? What's next in this? I might be trying to be unstoppable for the next 50 years, but that starts with me being focused for the next 45 minutes on
Right.
this one task and then moving
Right.
forward. So that was kind of what I thought. It's like we got to be focused, but we also got to have this element of just moving forward like one step at a time.
Seth, how do you find that? How do you find that? That rhythm of focus, if that makes sense. If that makes
Hmm.
sense, we have to find. I should say that time of focus. We get pulled in so many different directions, so many different distractions. Help the listeners and even help me with focus. What do you need to do? Because it might be the same thing somebody else needs to
Right.
do. How do you put yourself in that place of focus right here, right now, on what's in front of me?
Yeah. I'll probably have a different answer in a year and in 5 years because I feel like it's a little bit
Sure,
of a moving target.
sure.
I think there's some things on the physical side of
Hmm.
like there's some like really tangible things where people have to figure out their weird tangible quirks. Um, right now, I'm in an office that is a mile and a half away from my house.
Okay.
Um, I get more done by driving here than by working at my dining table.
Wow.
It's so like I know that for me I need to like have like a separate environment, because when I like come into this door my brain knows like you're getting work done.
Yeah.
I'm not coming in here to play, I'm not coming in here to watch Netflix, I'm
Right.
not coming in here to like have a drink
Right.
with my wife or with friends.
Right.
Like that's what I do at home. So I think for me having that separation in some setting, that's definitely possible at home. I know a lot of people that do that at
Well,
home.
can I jump in here? Because it's funny
Yeah,
that you said that. Because I went to I'm a believer in that.
yeah,
I'm also in a shared office space, right? Um, and the reason why I did that is because when you are home, as nice as your home is, okay. Man, is the dog barking? Um, did I finish that laundry? Do I have to take it out of the
yeah.
washer and put it in the dryer? And so I think, I mean, it's something as small as that. You said a mile and a half. I know people that drive 40, 45 minutes. I'm going to share with you. I'm going to share with the global world. I walk to my shared office space.
There you
My
go.
shared office
I should
space,
I should be walking.
my shared office space is literally a 6-minute walk from my residence.
That's awesome.
But it's important. And I
Yeah.
and I pay the expense to be there because I need that for focus. So I think it's not it's very it's very important that that we find places that we can get that,
Right.
because I can't get the best from you. You can't get the best from me without
Yeah.
focus.
Yeah, and that's a good point. So I mean, I think some of it is environment.
Right.
Some people might realize that they like, if they have a piece of chocolate, or if they have, there's some like just like Pavlov's dog tricks that people have.
Sure.
Uh, so I think some of those things, like it's kind of a moving target. I'm like kind of always interested in figuring out like, what time of day, what kind of things can I do to like kind of maximize my time. But in general, like I need to be in a focused environment. Sometimes that's at home. If that's at home, it's going to be really early in the morning before anyone else is up. So it's like
Right.
really just me.
Sure.
And then the other side of it is, I mean, I really have to have, like I said, I have to have my intentions straight. I have to have my focus straight. And that, I think that requires some reflection on the previous day.
Sure.
So like many days in the morning, I will spend a little bit of time and I'll look at the last day and I'll just reflect on what can I learn? Like what do I want to change from yesterday? I
Sure.
usually won't write down more than 2 or 3 things. Sometimes it's
Okay. Okay.
and I'll dive into that and I'll look at, okay, what happened that I want to change? Why did this happen? So, okay, since we're talking about tasks, like, okay, I didn't get this task done. I
Yeah.
didn't communicate with this person.
Sure.
So why did that happen? Okay, I didn't communicate with them because I was kind of avoiding it. Like maybe it was like a harder email to send. I was avoiding it.
Yeah.
So then what do I want to change? Okay, I need to do that. Like get that off of my plate first thing this morning. So I think by reflecting, like I've noticed that when I don't reflect on previous days or just reflect even on what's going on, all the details feel like they're bouncing around in my head. And it feels like there's way too much going on for me to actually feel like I can get stuff done. And you would think when you have 1,000 options of what kind of cupcake you want, that you would eat them all up. But
Right.
the truth is most people walk into a place like that and they get decision fatigue and there's so many options of what they could get done that they just walk out and they decide that they're not hungry
I
anymore.
like that term, decision fatigue. I like
Yeah, so I think like
that.
when I'm not taking the time for like me to be healthy,
Yeah.
exercise, journaling, prayer, um, I get overwhelmed really quickly with all that
Okay.
I want to get done.
Okay.
And then and that's when I actually get less done, is when I have more to get done.
Wow.
So
Wow.
that's kind of like a
Yeah.
roundabout of pretty much saying like Seth needs to be healthy for
Right.
Seth to be focused in like what I'm wanting to build and like what I'm wanting to get done. And
Yeah.
if I'm not healthy, then I'm going to start I know myself, I'm going to start escapism. I'm going to start all these things
Sure.
that
Sure.
just make things worse.
Yeah, yeah, we all do. Seth, and when we talk about building your company, man, and you've built a company, you guys are growing, your team does a wonderful job. Um, Talk to me about an obstacle that you
Mhm.
had to overcome, that you had to persevere through. And here's the second part of that question. That obstacle, what was the process of perseverance? But that obstacle, how did it prove to be a growth moment or a place of reward for you as you persevered through that obstacle? If you care to
Yeah.
share with
So
us.
one big one, and I mean, I have a small team, but we've been growing. We've been really grateful to grow quite a bit this
Right.
year, which is great because I know a lot of companies haven't been that fortunate in 2020.
Yeah.
Um, but I think one is making the transition from people hiring Seth Silvers to people hiring Story On.
Gotcha.
And for the first few years, I mean, it really was, I had I'd contract some work out, but it was really most of the projects were
Seth,
people
explain
hiring.
that.
Yeah.
Explain that, because I think there's some small business owners that really have to grasp what you just said. Explain
Yeah.
the difference from hiring Seth Silvers to hiring Story On.
Yeah. So, I mean, it's really the difference between being like a glorified contractor to owning a company, or like creating a job for yourself or building a company.
Sure.
I want to pause and say, like, creating a job for yourself is not bad. Like,
Right.
you're in control of your pay, you're in control of when you work, you get freedom over your schedule. Like those are all good things. It
Sure.
really just depends on what do you want. If
Sure.
you don't want to manage a team and you're somebody who wants to be bringing in good money, like you can just be you as like a contractor or a small like single employee business. And I mean, you could easily like you can be making six figures by doing that, and you don't need to make $1 million to like have the money that you need. It
Right.
just depends on what
Right.
you want. For
Yeah.
me, that's not what I set out to build.
Okay.
I set out to build a company that like models that models some of the way that I've seen business done so that we can give back as a company.
Yeah.
And so for me, it just being like, you hiring Seth and this client hiring Seth, and I'm just trading time for money.
Right.
I'm going to be
Okay.
hitting that glass ceiling real quick.
Yeah.
And so when I look at like me hitting that glass ceiling, even if I'm bringing in money, if all of my time is tapped out, I can't grow. And
Right.
so if the goal was to work for myself and make money, then I would have been there. But the goal is to build a team for this.
Okay.
Like I want Story on, like 5 years down the road, I want some
Yeah.
to like think that they work for the best company in the world because they know
Yeah.
they're taken care of. They know
Yeah.
that I'm going to give them opportunities to give back,
Yeah.
all those things. So
Great.
making that transition to where like now, starting to hire, starting to bring other people onto the team, and realizing that there's no cord, there's no USB cord that goes from my brain into the computer.
Right. Right.
And so that was like really hard for me because for most of the last handful of years, I haven't been winging it, but I've been building it as I've been going, and I've been building it in my way.
Yeah.
And so I haven't had as much of a need to document and to process, to build, systems and procedures and all of these things. So that when I hire somebody, I can hand them a document with a checklist and say, here's how you get the Ralph Graves podcast off the ground.
Yes.
And then when we have 3 other podcasts and 3 other YouTube shows that sign up to have us start doing their work the same week, all of those processes can't be different. Like there's got to be a repeatable
Okay.
process.
Okay.
And so that I would say that's been a big challenge for me, has been
Okay.
making that transition from people are hiring me and I'm trading my time for money,
Yes.
as opposed to building a process where people are hiring the Story on process.
Yeah.
And I'm still involved. I'm still leading it. I mean, you and I still talk every week.
Every
I'm
week.
still doing work. It's not like I'm
Right.
not showing for work. But
Right.
they're hiring a process because
Yeah.
you can't scale a person, but you can scale a process with it.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
I'd say that's been the biggest like challenge in my face the last year and a half.
Now, what have been some of those rewards, or some of those rewards that are actually in that challenge?
Yeah. I mean, the reward is when it works. Like the reward is like when you realize that you have a process, that you don't have to make every decision because you've already made % of them before.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
you already decided kind of how things are going to be done. And so it's not a new game every time you get a client. It's not like you're starting from ground zero.
Sure.
And so I think the reward has been getting new clients and the process being smooth, like realizing that people can move through an onboarding process and get their show up and going, or get their content up and, up on the internet, and they feel good about it. So I think in like some of our goals, like, in 2021, like we want to get to the place where we have 100 podcasts that we're managing as a company.
Sure.
There's still work to be done, but I think a reward is knowing that we have a process to get there.
Yeah.
And that gets
Yeah.
back to what I said before of, if I just want to get 100 podcasts, but I don't know how I'm going to get there, then that's going to overwhelm me, because I'm going to know how, oh man, every single new client is going to bring on this stress. But if I have a
Yeah.
process to where I know
Yeah.
like getting new clients is actually fun, it's not stressful,
Right.
then it makes getting to the goal and kind of moving forward even more possible.
Now, is it more important to you to get to the goal quickly, or to get there I know the answer to the question, but I'll need the people to hear you say it. Is it
Yeah.
more important that you get to go quickly, or get there the right way and prepared and ready to handle what's going
Yeah,
on?
so I mean more the right way.
Yeah, yeah,
I want to get there quickly, and it like, so years are funny to me. Like a year of like 12 months. Like we're designed to like set goals in 12 months.
we
So
are.
it's
Yeah,
like, I could easily say like, okay, yeah, by the end of 2021, I want to have 100 podcasting clients. Um, which could be good, but like maybe we could do it in 6 months. Maybe we could do it in 8 months.
right.
Like, why is there this arbitrary, like, I think applying time to goals is sometimes really interesting, as
Yeah,
opposed to continually trying to grow and continually trying to say like, let's get better and better and let's keep moving. So for me with that, I was actually thinking about that this morning. Should I make this a time based goal, or should I make this like a metric, like 80 podcasts or 100 podcasts,
I
and get there when we get there?
I think it's the goal is to keep the fire burning. The goal is to arrive with what you're supposed to arrive. There's a it's not talked about, and a lot of people forgot about it. There was an Olympic sport during Roman times where the race had nothing to do with who got there first, but
Hmm,
who got there and their torch was still burning.
interesting.
That's what that race was all about.
Huh.
So I'm
Yeah.
not sure if it matters if we get there first. First, Seth, this is Ralph and Seth talking now. You guys are privy to this. I don't think it's so important that we get there first. I just think that we should get there and our torch is still burning, man.
Yeah. And I had a moment last about a year ago, last October, where I was pretty stressed, feeling like all of the pressure for, me and my wife, like in our future. This isn't true. Like our future is not dependent on if my
Right,
business
right.
is,
Yeah.
but you kind of feel that way
Of
at
course you
times.
do.
Like
Of
you
course.
feel, you want to provide and you want to make sure that we have what we need.
Yeah.
Um, and I was pretty overwhelmed, and like the stress was really starting to get to me. So what I did is I actually looked for a company in our town that was looking for a really flexible in-house marketer,
Okay.
somebody that, a couple days a week,
Right.
it doing their marketing in-house. They're not hiring an agency, because
Right.
I knew that if I could do that, then I would have a job that is it covering our bills.
Hmm.
Then that gives me the freedom for my income with my company to be able to invest more in a team,
Okay.
invest in growth.
Okay.
And so we kind of realized, if that means it takes us 10 years, if like us being in a more stable position, stress wise, emotionally, even if that means that where my income personally is coming from is a little bit, it's maybe a little bit non-traditional, and
Okay.
maybe it means that I'm spending 25 hours a week building story on instead of 50 hours a week building
Okay.
story on.
Okay.
That might take 10 years,
Right.
but if we're healthy and we're married and our torch is still going,
Right.
then that's better to get it than that's better than getting to 100 podcasts in 3 months, and then I have a bunch of money, I don't have a family,
Right.
and I'm like stressed out and
Yeah.
like questioning. So I
Right.
love that concept. In this last year, I've
Yeah.
kind of realized that, like, you know what, like if it takes longer
Yeah.
but it's healthy, then like that's what we choose.
And we live in, and this conversation is taking that turn, which we knew that organic conversations take all kinds of turns. We live in a society, man, where everything is fast, 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 fast. Like
Hmm.
we have to reach the pinnacle of success at all costs, like you said, by next week, next year.
Hmm.
And I think, like you said, by doing that, families are destroyed, relationships are destroyed, and like the Bible says, you gain the whole world and lose your soul doing it.
Right.
So it doesn't really profit us to do that, man. And so I think I really want the listeners and the viewers to kind of listen. You'll get there. What you have been purposed to do is your purpose to do, it will get done. And I
Mhm.
think that we need to get used to building strong foundations the correct way instead of the fast way. That's just my take on it, man.
Yeah, and I mean, you and I both, like, we've seen plenty of people that have burned out, or
Yeah,
that, they've started a company and they've ran really, really fast, and then,
yeah,
it's just not sustainable. And that was
yeah,
about a year ago. I was beginning to feel like, I was like, this, it doesn't feel like what I'm doing right now doesn't feel sustainable.
right, right.
And so we made some changes to make it more sustainable, and that
Yeah,
might very well extend the timeline of, our business being the place where we wanted to be, or it might
yeah,
make it go quicker. I don't really know, but I know I feel better about it.
yeah, yeah. Seth, real quick before I let you go, man, how would you encourage others to be unstoppable in their own lives just from your journey? They're starting something, they're starting a company or whatever. How would you encourage them to be unstoppable with their calling and their purpose?
Yeah. So this is going to be a little bit of a, it makes sense for it to be coming from me, but it's a little bit different advice than you might hear. But um, I think that if you're heading down the journey of, fulfilling your calling of building something, you have something that you feel called to build, whether it's a platform or a business or anything. Um, Start doing what Ralph is doing. Like, start a show where you're showing up every single week to talk to your audience, to build that community, whether it's on a podcast or YouTube or Facebook or Instagram. I don't really care about the platform, but
Yeah,
the consistency of showing up in front of your audience, keeping yourself accountable to the audience that you feel called to serve every single week, is huge. You're going to learn a ton about yourself. You're going to learn a ton about your audience. You're going to learn a lot about just how things work and how movements are built. And so that would be my encouragement, is if you're wanting to build something and you're trying to become unstoppable in order to build something that
sure,
matters,
sure.
start a show, start doing this.
Yeah, yeah. Awesome, man. Thank you for that. Seth, how can they find you? I want as many people to work with you um, as possibly can, man. And listen, audience, this is my guy. Seth, how can they get in contact with you? How can they start working with Story On?
Yeah, I appreciate that so much, more than you know. You can find me on most social media platforms. My name is just Seth Silvers on those. But head over to successwithstories.com. That's our main website, is successwithstories.com. And you can kind of learn a little bit more about what we're doing there. But yeah, reach out to me on social media, and I would love to connect further with some of the listeners.
Oh, man, that's great. That's great. Thanks for being on the show. Guys,
Absolutely.
men, women listening, just want to leave you with this. In nature, if I could talk to a tree and I went up to the tree and I asked the tree, how high do you plan on growing? The tree would automatically respond, as high as I could possibly grow, right? There's no limit. But sometimes we talk to one another, we talk to human beings, and we ask them, what are you doing for personal growth? How high do you plan on growing? And I get blank stares. You have to have a plan for personal and professional growth. You have to have a plan. It's the beautiful thing. God gave us a free will. And oftentimes in our free will, we've decided that, for whatever reason, I've grown far enough. Listen, your life only changes when you begin to change. Work on yourself harder than you work on anything else. So that's my closing comment for today. Seth, thank you for being on the Ralph Graves Jr. show, man. I appreciate all that you're doing. And guys, reach out to Seth Silvers at storyon.co. Thanks for checking out the show. I'll see you guys later.